Live. Oh my gosh, I'm laughing. Hi, everyone. Hello. Oh, don't mind me. We just had some funny behind the scenes things happening here. Welcome to this lunch hour so long. My name is Kim from Kimberbell, and I'm excited to share with you part 3 of the 2 Scoops Bench Pillow Sew Along. Sorry, we're just a few minutes running late. We were rushing from one set to the next here at Kimberbell Studios, because you may have seen another reveal of the Bella box called the French Market. And they also showed a sneak peek of one of the projects that's going to be in the next Bella box that comes this fall, that's all about family. So if you saw that live, that's pretty cool. And if you didn't see it live, it's not too late to go take a look. Pretty fun stuff. All right, so we are now in gear to talk 2 scoops, to talk ice cream. And who doesn't want to do that, right? So let's chat about 2 scoops. We are in part 3. Of course, on Monday, part 1 was all about how do you add your background quilting to each block and quilt it block by block, and then adding like the applique design on top. We talked about that on Monday with this block right here. So if you missed it, it's not too late to catch it. You can find it on our YouTube channel or on our Facebook page. On Wednesday of this week, we actually talked about how to piece these blocks in the hoop right here. Aren't those great half square triangle blocks? And then once we pieced them, we quilted on top, all on the embroidery machine. So that was on Wednesday. Again, not too late to go back and watch that. And then today for part 3, we're going to finish it up. And I'm going to talk about how to do your background quilting on these borders, as well as give you a couple of tips on some of the embellishments that are part of the 2 Scoops Bench Pillow. All right. So are you with me today? How many of you guys are like all caught up? I'm not. But you know what? There's plenty of time for between now and summer, right? But I have seen a lot of people who've made this already, finished it up, and posted it on the Kimberbellas and Fellas page, and they are pretty darn cute. You're doing a great job with them. So, ready to get started on part 3? Today, we're going to be doing, of course, the background quilting. For the borders, the background quilting is a separate purchase. We do that because it's an optional purchase. Some people like to do things, all on their embroidery machine, including the background quilting, while others may go, you know what, I just want to do, the piece blocks and the applique blocks without it. And then they're going to go back afterwards and fill it in with background quilting, or give it to a long arm quilter to fill it in with background quilting. But whatever way you decide, you'll probably want it quilted in some kind of way, whether that's stitching in the ditch, and that just means that you're stitching between each of the blocks along the seam line, or if you're doing the background quilting like I'm going to be showing today. Now, if you're interested in getting the 2 Scoops Bench Pillow background quilting bundle, it's not too late. You can find it at kimberbell.com. And the good news is that it is now available just for a few more days at a discounted price. A discount of, I believe, 25% is what you can get off of that bundle. So if you're interested in that, check that out. I think that does end May 31st. So you have a few more days to download that at a discounted price. And just remember, like I always say, that when you download these background quilting designs from Kimberbell, what you're doing is truly building a library of designs that you can use for anything. So beyond just this project, think about all the other fun stuff you can do with such designs. All right. So I went ahead and downloaded the background quilting file for this border today, and it is loaded on my machine. I'm going to show you that here in just a minute. Where I'm going to start here is, if you're following in the instructions, I've just printed them out on a PDF, but I am on page 4 just to show you where it shows what size to cut the borders. Okay, so I'm at page 4. I'm going to go to the borders and backing section, as you see here. And the outer border is 1/4 yard, and you're going to cut that in 2 4.5 by 16.5 inch pieces. Now, if you want to give yourself a little extra wiggle room on that length, just in case it shrinks up, then, you know, maybe cut it at 4.5 by 17 or 4.5 by 18, and then quilt it and then cut it off at the end to finish at that 4.5 by 16.5 inch. That's a personal preference, but it's something you may want to do. All right. So, and then of course, as I'm doing the background quilting, I'm also going to show you a couple of tips on some of the other areas of the quilt. All right, so I downloaded my background quilting, and this one is called the Food Border 1. And I am going to use the block by block method. And the reason why I'm using the block by block method for these borders is because I used the block by block method for the other parts of these blocks on here. So I'm just going to keep it the same. Certainly you could use the clear blue tiles method, but I'm going to show you the block by block method today, where you don't have any batting in your seams. That works really well for something that like this, where you are quilting things first and then adding appliques on top. When I like to use the clear blue tiles method is more of like when you are doing a quilt sandwich and you want to see the quilting on the front as well as the back of the quilt. Well, since this is a pillow, we're not going to see the quilting on the front and the back, so I'm going to use block by block. All right, so I downloaded the PDF that is also with that design file. So here's a closer look at it. Andrew. I've got Andrew and Libby here in the house with me. So if you have any questions, certainly let us know in the comments, and Libby will answer as many as she can and help me to answer as many as I can too. So this is the first page of the download. Okay, what it's going to show you are all the different sizes and lengths and widths of that background border in and of itself on the first page. The second page shows you a chart, and that's a great chart to check out when you are looking at, like, especially when you want to know how large to cut your batting. This is where you would look on the second page. Okay. The third page are just some FAQs there, but the fourth and fifth page is what we're going to be referring today to as I go along at the machine. All right, so 1, 2, 4, and 5 is what we're going to be looking at. Now, let's get another up close. Let's go ahead and try the overhead camera and see how close we can get to this. If you've seen my sew-alongs before and you've seen me do background quilting before, this is going to be a nice, quick, easy review. If you've never done it, then let me show you how easy it is to figure out how big I want, or which design file I'm going to use, how big to cut my batting, and all that kind of thing. Let me show you again, I'm on page 4, that we need to cut our width at 4.5 by 16.5, or like I said, maybe for you, you might, if you haven't cut it yet, try 4.5 by 17, 4.5 by 18. That just gives you a little bit more wiggle room, like I said, to quilt your background border and then cut it down to the 16.5 inch size when you're ready. All right. Now, if you've already cut it, no big deal. It'll still work. Okay. Now, 4.5 inches wide is what I'm looking at. Let's go to this page. This is your PDF, and I want you to notice that there are 6 different groupings of background quilting designs here. You've got your 1-inch widths. Okay, this whole section is all 1 inch wide. Okay, that is like your narrow strips, and I love the coordinating border that goes with this narrow strip. It's just like these diamonds here, kind of like a plaid or an argyle look. Really, really cute. So those are your 1-inch strips that you can use on any anything that needs a 1-inch border, right? Then this section right here is your 2-inch. See, because it's the first number correlates with how wide the strip is. This is your 3-inch section. There we go. And that correlates again with it being 3 inches wide. Remember when I said that we're cutting our borders at 4.5 inches wide? Well, this is the section that I'm going to be working with today, because a cut size of 4.5 inches when sewn together ends up being 4 inches wide, right? So it's the 4-inch wide borders that I'm going to be looking at. All right. Now, of course, there's 5-inch wide over here, and then finally 6-inch wide. This is just to show you that our borders come in all sizes from 1-inch widths down to 6-inch widths. Now, what does the second number mean? Well, the second number located in each of these sections is the length. It corresponds with the length of your hoop. All right. So this means if you even have a small hoop, like a 5x7, look, you can use the 4x7 design. This next one is a 4x10. That corresponds with a 10-inch hoop, like a 6x10-inch hoop. The next set is a 4x12. And if you've got like an 8x12 hoop, then this is the one you're going to choose. And finally, there's a 14-inch length right here. And if you have a large size hoop, you can choose the 4x14 and not have to hoop as many times. All right. But today I want to show you that even with a small hoop, boom, 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 4x7, you're going to be able to quilt this background border, and you're never going to be able to tell, like, oh, she used a really small hoop for that, or she used a really large hoop for that. You're not going to be able to tell because these designs are the same scale. And the way I'm going to show you how it's done, as outlined in this download, makes it so that they all mesh together very quickly and easily. All right. So I'm going to pull up, because I'm using the because I'm using the 5x7. Let's go ahead and back up a little bit. Because I want to show you that it can be done in a 5x7 hoop, I'm going to use the 4x7 file. And that means the 4x7 file is the name of the file I'm going to pull up on the embroidery machine. All right. Now that we've got that figured out, let's turn to page 2. How do we know how much to cut our batting? Well, remember the background fabric. Here is the column for the fabric cut width. What was the fabric cut width? It was 4.5 inches, right? So I'm going to go down. Oh, this is the area I'm looking at. It's the 4.5-inch width strip. Okay. And I am using, remember, the file called 4x7. So there in this column is the file name, right? So when it's all finished, of course, 4.5 inches measures down to 4 inches. See, I'm all in the same column. What I'm going to do is cut my batting at 4.5 by 8 inches. All right. 4.5 by 8 inches. I've already done that right here. Okay. Cut a few of them to have on hand. All right. The important thing to know is that your batting just needs to be larger than your fabric cut width, or not your fabric cut width, your file name. Okay. But if you want an easy, handy dandy chart, it's right there for you too. Okay. All right. So now let's skip to page 4, where it says first hooping, whoop, right there. And then page 5 says additional hoopings. Okay. So they're done almost identical to each other between the first hooping and the next hooping after that. But there's just a couple little differences that it will note in these directions. And I'm just going to show you that today on the machine itself. So you can certainly, let's go ahead and go front. You can certainly refer to the directions as you go, or you can refer to this video and see me walking through the directions as well. The first thing I did was I hooped my stabilizer in a 5x7 hoop. I used the light mesh cutaway stabilizer from Kimberville, and I'm going to place that on the machine and stitch my first step. If you're looking at the instructions, I'm on page 4, okay, of the download. Okay, this is the download that goes with the background quilting designs. All right, so I'm going to pull that up on my machine here. And let's see. One other thing I should mention is if you're wondering what background quilting design we used in the sample, turn to page 11. Let's go ahead and go up to the overhead. And where it says outer borders, it tells you which quilting design we used. So I used KDQ 092, all right? And I used the 4-inch width. Okay, so that's just one more place you can find that information. So I'm going to go to KDQ 092 here at the machine. And when you press on that, let me show you once again here, KDQ 092. I clicked on that, and now it brings up 2 folders. It says Embroidery Files and Instructions. If you have not downloaded the instructions yet, like I did with, and I'm showing you right now on this tutorial, then you'll want to download that to your computer and print it, or just pull it up on your laptop or on your iPad or whatever. Embroidery Files is what I want, right? And now it gives me 2 more folders because all of our border designs, they come in 2 different methods. You can use the block by block method, or you can use the clear blue tiles method. Remember at the beginning, I said today I'm going to use the block by block method because my batting will be eliminated in my seams when I use this method. All right, now it brings up all 9 file types to choose from. I'm going to use PES since that's what my machine uses. And remember in our instructions, it said we needed the 4x7 file. Right here is the 4x7 file. Click and set and embroidery. All right, that's all there was to it. Now I am ready to follow the instructions as they're outlined on page 4. The first step I'm going to do is called the batting placement line, and it's just going to stitch a rectangle there to place my batting. All right, and once that rectangle is stitched out, I'm going to take my oversized piece of batting that I already cut. Remember, this was the 4.5 by 8 inch size, and I'm going to cover the entire section there. And I'm going to use a couple pieces of our Kimberville paper tape to hold it in place while it stitches the next step, which is the batting tack down line. Now this is going to go over twice since it is a tack down line. Our tack down lines go over 2 times with these, and that's just going to make sure that we don't accidentally snip a stitch. going to give it that extra security. All right. Now, if you're following along in the download that comes with your background quilting, I am still on page 4. This is the first hooping that we're talking about, right? And I want to, let's see, we're at step 1D. 1D. I'm going to trim my batting close to the stitch line. Okay. There we go. All right. And as I'm trimming that batting, are there any questions, Libby?
There are not.
Okay. People excited to make this today?
Yes.
You know, we've got Memorial Day coming up here. I'm thinking that's a perfect time to have some ice cream, right? This pillow is making me think ice cream, and I want ice cream this weekend for Memorial Day. All right. Okay. So now I have stitched or cut away the extra batting. And this is awesome because, as you know, if you've done this before, we don't want the batting to be inside our seams. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to now stitch what we call the fabric placement line. And it's going to go 1/4 inch around all 4 sides here. And then we'll continue with rolling some tape at the top and bottom, as you're going to see in step 2A. So let's go to that point. As that's stitching out, does anyone have any fun plans with their families this weekend? What kinds of holiday traditions do you have over Memorial Day? I know for my husband and I, it's been a tradition for, ever since I've been married into his family, which is 26 years now, that we go around and we visit the cemeteries of loved ones who've gone past, and then we get together at my mother-in-law's home for a family barbecue, and that's what we do. But it's all about being with family, right, and loved ones. All right, so we've got our 1/4 inch seam on 2 sides. On borders, we actually don't have that stitch on the top and bottom, and you're going to see why that is here in a minute. But it's because we actually, the whole border fabric is going to flow one after the other, and so we wouldn't want an extra seam line over here. There's no seam that's going to happen quite yet. So it only stitches on the side. And now I'm at step 2A, where it tells you to roll some paper tape at the top and at the bottom directly on the stabilizer. So this is outside of the batting line here. So I'm going to place that rolled piece of tape right up there and place one at the bottom. Now I'm on step 2B, again on page 4, and it says to place the border fabric above the top edge of the batting about 1/2 inch. This is very lenient, you guys. That's a very gracious number, I guess I should say, because really you could even do about 1/4 inch above and you would be just fine. In fact, if you had cut this down to the exact size that it said earlier, you may want to just keep it to that 1/4 inch. Okay, but there we go. I've placed it about 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch above that batting, and now I'm going to place the fabric so it lines up right against those outside seam lines, right? Seam allowance lines. And because I have a piece of rolled tape here at the bottom, it's going to just stay in place. All right. The next step I'm on is 2C. And what it's going to do is it's going to stitch a fabric basting stitch, and that's going to go down just the long sides of this border block. The reason why, again, it doesn't go across is because this is a long piece of border, and we don't want anything that's going to show that there's a break in it, right? There's no need for a stitch to go across. It just needs to go on these outside edges to keep it in place, to hold it, and then that's going to be sewn into our seam here shortly. Sherry says, we decorate graves at my husband's family cemetery and visit a cafe in a small town that was a favorite of his family. We also have a picnic sometime this weekend. I love that, Sherry. Thank you for sharing that. Let's see what Kathy's doing. She says, my granddaughter is graduating from high school this weekend. That is awesome. Kathy, congratulations for her. We will be visiting the cemeteries and then getting together for a barbecue. Fantastic. All right, so I've now got my tack down lines on the long sides. Now, are you ready for my favorite part? I know it's your favorite part too. Let's watch this machine do its magic, right? So it's now going to stitch the background quilting. Now, as you can see in our sample here, we used a background quilting thread of a lime green. And that's because the sample makers on this one said, you know what, I'm thinking lime green because I just want it to kind of blend in and mix in. But certainly if you want to see it pop, which I'll tell you what, you'll probably want to see that background quilting pop. Maybe consider using a darker green just so that you can see it a little bit better. For me today, because this is just a quick sample, I'm going to stick with my gray thread. That's a deep gray because I want you to be able to see how cute that background quilting is. So let's go ahead and stitch it out. All right, so while that's stitching out, let's talk about some of the other things that might be helpful little tips for when you're putting this, this together. I want to draw your attention to page, let's see, let's go to page 18, all right? I'm just going to show you how we did the milkshake glasses right here with something we call iron-on vinyl. If you are new to iron-on vinyl, oh, you're in for a real treat. It gives it this really shiny, you know, look to those glasses. And on top of that blue fabric, it just looks like a glass, doesn't it? So much fun. So let me just show you how we do that. Again, I'm on page 18 now of your instructions. I've got my, let's shift a few things around here. You're gonna need your iron. You'll want a pressing cloth here. And then in your embellishment kit, you would have received some iron-on vinyl, all right? So that's in your embellishment kit, as well as, of course, the blue fabric. So what we're doing is we are combining the iron-on vinyl with the blue fabric. So now it will become like one piece of fabric. And once it's one piece of fabric, that's when you use it as an applique, all right? So to do that, just gonna bring my iron over here for a minute. If you look at, again, we're on number 8 or page 18, it says you're gonna fuse the fusible backing to the no, sorry about that. Your fusible backing is different than an iron-on vinyl. If I had my fusible backing here, because this is, you know, a light color block and it's going on a darker color background, that's when I would want to put some fusible backing on it. Certainly up to you if you'd like to do that. But let's go now below where it says peel protective vinyl from the glasses vinyl. All right, so this is the protective vinyl. It's done. It's done, but I'm going to show you this first. Okay. So we're going to peel that away. And you're going to have kind of like a sticky side to this vinyl, a nice smooth side, a sticky side. You're going to place your background, not your background, your applique fabric with the right side facing up. Now, on a blue fabric like this, you really can't tell which is the right side or the wrong side. So pick a side. You're going to place this vinyl with the sticky side down. Okay. That's on, of course, the right side of the fabric. All right. Now, once you've done that, you're going to still take that paper that you just peeled off, and you're going to, it's what we would call the protective paper, and you're going to just place it on top of that iron-on vinyl. And then take your hot iron here and just press it for about 8 seconds is what we suggest. And now it's going to melt that to your fabric for those glasses. When I'm ironing like this and it says to press, one little mantra I always keep in my mind is press it, don't stress it. Okay? Don't do this. Just give it a nice firm press for about 8 seconds and then move on to the next area. And guess what? Of course, my iron is off. I'm thinking, boy, that's not very warm. How many times has that happened to me? Okay, we're going to let that warm up for a minute. You guys, this is sad because this is not the first time that I've plugged in the iron, but not turned on the iron. And that happens to be a key component to ironing. Just saying. In the meantime, let's take a look at our background quilting while that heats up. Look how cute. Oh my gosh. See why I had to show you in the dark color? It is just darling, isn't it? Look, you've got the ice cream truck there and the musical notes and then the popsicles. Wow, 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 and more wow. So, but we also still have this extra part that still needs to be quilted. Do you see why if you had a larger hoop, you could probably pretty much do this whole background quilting all the way up to probably about there with a 14-inch size. And then you would just quilt the rest of it with your smaller hoop. All right. So it's just more hoopings if you have a small hoop or less hoopings if you have a larger hoop. All right. So we're going to pop this out of the hoop now and cut around it. We're going to cut, let's see, we're going to carefully cut around it because I don't want to cut this piece off. This still needs to have embroidery on it, right? So I'm just going to lift it up. I'm going to remove my tape and then just cut the stabilizer around it without cutting your fabric. Don't do that. All right, I'm going to remove that tape that was at the top. All right. Okay, so remember when I said that you're going to have a first hooping and additional hoopings? We're on pages 4 and 5 of the download that comes with the background quilting files. We finished your first hooping. We go now to additional hoopings. All right, so we've already removed our project from the hoop and we trimmed away the extra stabilizer. The next thing I want to do is hoop. We're just going to repeat this process, and I'm going to hoop another piece of the light cutaway stabilizer. And then I'm just going to change one little thing than we did before with these additional hoopings. All right. So just like we did the first time, we are going to hoop our stabilizer only, place it onto the bed of the machine where we will now stitch out step number 1 again, which is the placement line for your batting. I'm going to clean up a little bit around here, right? Any questions while that's stitching?
Okay, we have a question from Julie Haney.
Julie Haney, okay.
She is wondering, is there a way to fix the iron-on vinyl if your iron accidentally touched it and it melted?
Ooh, I wish I knew that. You know what? I don't know. Boy, I really don't know. I'm so sorry. I'm trying to think of any possible way. If anyone out there has some suggestions for her, chime in and let us know, because I personally am not sure. But that's a great question. So hopefully someone out there does know. The next step is I already, of course, did my outline for the batting. So now I'm going to place my batting on top of that rectangle. I'm going to tape it in a couple of places and then stitch my tack down line for the batting. While that's stitching out, let me show you what I'm going to do next here with this block. This is going to let's see. Well, maybe I'll wait because we'll follow along with the directions. How's that? But maybe what I'll do is go back. We're just going to go back and forth because I have a hot iron now, and I'm going to press this for 7 seconds to adhere the iron-on vinyl to the fabric. All right. Yep, that's nice and hot. That's just where we want it. So like I said before, about 8 seconds is all. Lift it and then go to the next area. Lift and go to the next, and so forth. Okay. All right, so this is all pressed on top. Now what I want you to do is flip it over so that you're now looking at the back side of the fabric, and just give it one more round of pressing. This time it doesn't have to be as long, maybe 4 or 5 seconds. You just want to get a nice, good adhesion. And of course, doing it on the back as well is going to help with that. Okay, so now that that's done, I'm just going to let it cool. Whew, it's nice and hot. While we cut away the extra batting on this block. Okay, so we are, again, if you're following along in your instructions, I'm on page 5. Again, this is the PDF download, and I'm trimming away the extra batting. I'm on step 1D. How many of you are looking forward to a holiday weekend where you can just relax a little bit, right? And maybe as part of that relaxing, you're going to be doing some embroidery. I know that's any day I can embroider, any amount of time I can embroider, that's always relaxing. Anyone doing that this weekend? Okay, the next step I'm on, we're looking at step 2A, and that is I'm going to stitch my fabric placement line. Again, remember that goes on the outside long edges of this border block. Then I'm going to roll my tape, and then I'll show you how this is just a little bit different than what we did before.
Here is another question for you, Kim.
Okay.
This one is on our Facebook page. It's Diana Weirman.
Hi, Diana.
She says, if you're using a larger hoop, would you, during setting design, use the add button and repeat design for continuous sewing?
Yes, I would. I absolutely would. Yeah. But Diane, are you thinking widthwise so that you can do more borders at the same time? Or are you thinking lengthwise so that you don't have to, so that you just repeat the design one after the other? Let me know in the comments. I guess I could answer both. Really, if you're talking widthwise, you have a larger hoop and you want to put more borders in there, absolutely. In fact, let me show you. If this, even with a 5x7 hoop, if I was doing a border that was, say, like 1 inch wide, right, that's going to be real narrow here, I might use the add button, like you mentioned, Diane, to do, 2 strips, 1 inch strips in this same hoop, because boy, that's going to save me on stabilizer, right? So absolutely use that add feature. If you're talking about lengthwise, you really don't have to use the add feature. You would just pick the design size to match your length of hoop. Remember right here, that's what you would choose, one of the larger sizes to go with a larger hoop. So hopefully that helped answer that question. Great one. Okay, so now we've stitched our here we go. Our next step, which is going to show us where to place our fabric, right? Remember, because we cut away the extra batting, there's not going to be any batting in our seams. But we want to go to, again, I'm on step 2A, where I'm going to roll a piece of paper tape at the top and the bottom. All right. Again, this is on your stabilizer itself. It's on the outside of your batting. Okay. And here's where it just gets a little different, not much. See, we've got our top already quilted, but we still need to get the rest of this. So what we do is we fold the top over itself, just like so. Again, so now you have right sides facing, and it's going to naturally fold at where the batting stopped from your earlier one, right? From your earlier stitch out, boom. And we're gonna just keep it placed on that. We're gonna keep it folded, see here? And then we're going to line up this fold to the top of our batting. All right, here we go. I've lined it to the top. And now I'm going to unfold that piece. And this is why we have the rolled tape, right? It's going to keep that in place right there. We're going to make sure that our borders line up along with the stitch line that we just stitched and place it down. And that's why we have the tape at this bottom, because we want this fabric to lay over it, right? And stay in place. That's the only difference there is between the first hooping and all of your other hoopings. Remember what's going to happen next? It's going to stitch down a tack down line on both sides of the fabric, just like it did up here. Remember that? And then we will be able to stitch the rest of our design. Now remember, this tack down stitch is going to be sewn inside your seam allowance. So don't worry about unpicking that. Not a big deal. You'll never see it. It's hidden, okay? And then once we stitch that, you would do this one more time for this additional piece, all right? So let's go ahead and do the next part. Boy, I'm running out of bobbin here, so hold your breath, guys. Let's see if I'll have enough bobbin to finish this border off, right? All right, while that's stitching out, well, real quick, let's wait and watch it stitch down that tack down line on both sides. Tracy is saying, I don't have these instructions. Okay, Tracy, I'm guessing that you're meaning the instructions for the background quilting and the borders. Those are found in the download itself for the background borders. Now, if you're not doing quilting on your embroidery machine, then you won't have to worry about this part. You would take it to like a long arm quilter, or you might want to do something on your own sewing machine to get it quilted. All right. So here we've got our tack down lines, and now the next step is going to be to continue our border quilting. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, now let's go back to, we're just going back and forth, having a little bit of whiplash going on maybe. I hope you're still with me. I'm going back to my, my tips, my steps for actually stitching out the vinyl on these glass malts or floats or shakes or whatever you want to call them, right? Let's get an up close of that. I used our iron-on vinyl that is included in the embellishment kit to give it a shiny, glassy look. And oh my goodness, it is pretty stinking cute. I've ironed it on both sides. I waited for it to cool, and now I can peel off my paper backing. Let's go to the overhead camera. I can peel that off and look at what remains. Oh, it's shiny, it's glassy, it looks like glass. Don't you love it? And now this becomes my whole section of applique to place down when it's time to do these glasses. All right, let's get up close here. If I was stitching this design on my machine, what would have happened is that it would have given me a placement line for all three of these glasses at the same time. And then now you just treat this glass fabric just like another regular piece of fabric. Just don't even think about it. Just think, oh, yep, that's my fabric. You would lay it there on top for it to then do its tack down line and then finish off those glasses. Pretty cool, right? It's fun to use new stuff, right? For these different blocks. It gives it just that extra dimension. It gives it that extra wow factor. And so whenever possible, we try to add that to some of these projects because it's just cute. All right, so that's my first area I wanted to talk about. The second one is actually how to do the section for the ice cream sandwich. Thank you. That's what it's called. And I used our pink polka dot glitter for this one. As you can see, let's get an up close of that. I don't know how well, oh, there we go. Do you see all those polka dots in there? What's cool about Kimberbell's polka dot glitter is that whatever color you put behind that, that's the color of polka dot that's going to stick out, right? So I've got two pieces here as outlined in your instructions. I've got, let's see, I'm on page, just for reference, I am looking at the block for the ice cream sandwich, and it's on page 29. So I've got my piece of pink applique or pink polka dot glitter, and see if I didn't have anything else behind it, whatever it was behind it is what the color of polka dot is going to show. But I wanted it to be a white polka dot, so I'm putting it on a white piece of fabric. So just like I did with this, where I made, one piece of fabric almost like new because I added the vinyl to it to give it a glossy look. I'm going to do the same thing with this piece. This is going to become a new applique fabric once I've ironed those two things together. All right. So for example, like I said, because it's on white, it's going to show up as white polka dots. If I were to put this, let's see, on black, right? My shirt. If I were to have a black piece of fabric on there, it would look like little black chocolate chips, right? So again, have fun with this with our polka dot glitter. We've got such a variety of colors of it, and really think about what color you're putting behind it, because that's the color polka dot you're going to have, which is kind of cool. All right, so let's finish this off. All I'm going to do is the first thing is going to take off, peel away, remove the plastic topping. Okay. All right, let's go to overhead. So here's the plastic topping. As you can see, it reveals this gorgeous glitter. I love it because it does not come off on your hands. Some people might first think glitter, oh my gosh, that's going to get everywhere. Oh, no, my friends. It's awesome with this stuff from Kimberbell. It doesn't go anywhere. And on the other side is a fusible backing. All right. So I'm going to take this, place it on top of my background fabric because I want white polka dots, and fuse the two together. And then I'll use it as my new applique piece. Now, one thing that we mentioned, let's see, where did my pressing cloth go? Oh, it's down here. All right. We like to use a pressing cloth when ironing on things like vinyl. So I'm just going to use another piece of scrap fabric. There we go. And I'm going to press that for a few seconds. Maybe, I don't know, 8 to 10 seconds. You can lift it up. See if it's adhered. Ooh, it's hot. Let that baby cool. Yep, it's adhered. And now I have a new piece of fabric to use for my applique. When it comes time to doing your little ice cream sandwich, let's go to this camera over here. There we go. When it comes time to do that piece, what's going to happen is you're going to have an outline stitched out of this ice cream. I think we call it ice cream sandwich 1. And then you're going to place this whole piece of fabric on top, and then it's going to do its tack down stitch, just like a regular piece of fabric. Isn't that awesome? So you know what? If you wanted little chocolate chips, put black fabric behind it. That would be so cute. Or if you want little red specks, you could put red fabric behind it. Anything you like. All right, should we look at where we're at on the background quilting? Oh my goodness, I'm going to pop it out of the hoop. I'm going to cut it up first, and then we'll take a closer look at it. So just like you did before, you're going to trim away any of the extra batting. Be very careful not to trim or poke a hole in your fabric. You don't want to do that. Okay. All right. See how quick and easy this is? Again, this is, while this tutorial is just for 2 scoops, this is the same method that you would use for any background quilting of borders when you use the block by block method. Again, if you are wanting to see your quilting on the front of your fabric as well as the back of your fabric, then you would use the clear blue tiles method. But if you're doing block by block like I'm showing here, this method works just as well. Isn't that so cute? Oh my goodness, so much fun. And then we would just continue with this last part. If you are using like a larger size hoop and then you get down to like a little piece like this, just change your hoops to your smaller hoop and stitch out this portion because you're not going to waste the stabilizer. And it's going to be great because all of these are the same scale, no matter what size of hoop you have. So you're not going to be able to tell like, oh, she used a 9x4 or 4x14 earlier, but then she switched to a 4x7. No, you're not going to be able to tell. It's going to be all the same scale and it's just going to all look like it's one big piece. Just awesome. Again, those background quilting designs are on sale for just a few more days. May 31st, I believe, is the date that they go up to a regular bundle price. But right now, for an introductory price, you can save 25%. All right, that's all, you guys. We finished part 3. Woo-hoo, woo, 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 woo. How exciting. I hope that you had a whole lot of fun with this sew along. We have many more, of course, coming up. Before I leave, are there any other questions, Libby, that I can help with?
No, not that I've seen it.
None. Okay, great. Well, I will see you. Join me, let's see, next Wednesday for What's New Wednesday at Kimberbell. I come to you live every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Mountain Daylight Time. You can find it on our Facebook page or our YouTube channel. And I show you what's new in the Kimberbell world, whether that's things that are coming to a shop near you, something that you can find at a shop online, or things that you are making at home and sharing with us. We all love to be inspired by it. So join me next Wednesday again for What's New Wednesday. We always have a lot of fun. Plus, there's always giveaways. It's awesome. I'd love to see you there. And of course, if you've missed this or any other parts of our sew along that we've had this week for 2 scoops, you can always find it on our Facebook page and our YouTube channel. When you're at YouTube, I think the best thing you could do is to subscribe to our channel so that you will never miss an episode. It's really easy to find what you're looking for on YouTube, a lot easier than finding it on our Facebook page. But either way, we're at both places. All right, everyone, have a wonderful holiday weekend and be kind to one another and just have a great, wonderful day. Bye-bye.